Well, hello everybody, and welcome back to the Hilltop Pillbox here in Abbotsford, British Columbia, Canada. And here we are about to play a solo game of 1941 Anniversary Edition here. And it is going to be a good one. And I am changing things up a little bit, as you can possibly tell. First of all, this is just a gorgeous map that was a file sent to me by Hell on Wheels. And I printed it out, and it's got my original hit dice here on a nice little battle board that he put together. And has my dice on there, the 1, 2, 3, 4 for the hits. But today I am going to be playing a D12 system with this game. So a couple of modifications that I have decided to try to see if we can bring some balance. So I'm not playing with a bid. Typically the Allies will get a bid of anywhere from 9 to 15. 12's kind of the creamy middle. I played my very first game of this at a tournament back in 2018, and the video is on my channel here of the wrap-up of that tournament. And I was given, or my partner and I were given a bid of 45, and we still lost by around 6. We were the Allies, and we just got actually roasted by guys who obviously played the game a lot more than we did. I had never played the game myself. But that was pretty embarrassing. But hey, you learn. So we're not going to play with a bid today, but this is what I'm going to do with the D12 system. All infantry units that are on their home territory, they defend with a 5. So typically, mathematically, they'd be defending with a 4, but they're going to defend with a 5. So the Chinese infantry get a little bit of a boost. The Soviet infantry, of course, are going to be getting their boost. Early in the game, these British infantry, they're in these key areas, get a slight boost. But that also means that, landing in Europe, the German infantry are going to have a boost. So there are some definite, drawbacks for both sides. But I think it's going to help the Allies perhaps hold on to some land a little bit longer. Maybe that'll help the game out. We'll see. There's still a lot of empty stuff here for the Japanese to come take. So I'm not sure it's really going to make that much of a deal, but we're going to do that. The other thing we're going to do is cruisers typically would be on a D12 system, a 6 attack and 6 defense. We're going to bump those up to 7. Because I ask you, when's the last time you bought a cruiser in Axis and Allies Anniversary Edition? So we're going to make that a 7 that they're going to hit on. And the battleships then, by default, will definitely have to go up to a 9. Okay? So battleships attack and defend at a 9, cruisers attack and defend at a 7. Because if we move the cruisers up to 7, then no one's going to buy battleships because you just buy cruisers because it's probably worth it. So anyway, we're going to see how this goes. I'm not sure. I will try to keep track of how many times that extra half a pip figured into the defense of a territory. And I'll just keep track of that and let you know at the end of the game, did it really make a difference? And I don't think the cruisers and battleships going up are going to have a lot of difference. They tend to do their thing anyway. So here we go, round 1 coming up. And I'm interested to see what's going to happen here on the Eastern Front. Time will tell. All right, round 1 is in the books, and we're going to take a look at things here. There has not been much for surprises here, although the Allies did gain 3 extra hits this round by rolling 5s with their infantry on home soil. So that is, helpful. Not game-changing, but helpful. And one of those was here on the Philippines. And actually 2 of these were on the Philippines. I got 5 and... Oh, no, just 1, a 5 there. And China got 1. And on the Eastern Front, the Soviets got 1. Speaking of the Soviets, as typical, they bulked up here in Buryatia. A bit more of a doorstop now, considering those are all 5s. And I don't know, this is probably dumb. But I decided to leave this here just to maybe tempt them to come down. But that's, tempting myself, of course. I don't think I'll do it, because then I'm defending at a 4, and I probably lose a bunch of guys. And yeah, I might take out a plane, maybe. before I all die, but then the doorway's open. So I think it was a good move on my part to try to tempt me, but I'm not falling for temptation, so good for me. Down here, of course, the Japanese did their typical taking over the money islands, and I parked the carrier down here, a destroyer here, to dissuade the British destroyer from 35 from coming down, and it worked. Now, with the destroyer here and the loaded carrier here, I could not move. My typical move is to take the destroyer and transport from here, load up a men and artillery, come across, and then I can help up in Africa or help in India. But I can't do that now. It's not worth the risk. So they're going to head off to the Atlantic. We'll see what happens over there. Maybe it'll provide some good comic relief. Over here then, here's the Indian contingent, and they're going to pick up the Rhodesians this next turn and deposit them next to the freshly minted factory up in Cairo. Yes, the British are going to try to build up here and hold on. That's not to say we're giving up on India, but I think with Japan having such an incredible first round, I don't think it'll be very easy to stop them over here. They can bring quite a bit of stuff to bear right away here. Yeah. So, might have been foolhardy, but I think this will put a lot more direct pressure on Italy, who did land in Transjordan to cut the Suez. And up here, fairly typical start. A couple extra hits for the Germans, though, on the Eastern Front against them. And, yeah, built a carrier and a cruiser. I essentially am going to be playing the let's not let Britain get too built up game. I don't know if it's going to work, but it is going to take a lot of British cash, and I'm not sure if they want to get rid of things. I already flew up the fighters. That takes away the Soviet $5 bonus, but having $20 worth of fighters on their territory to hold Karelia, probably an extra 2 rounds could be helpful, because of course the German build was quite modest, a 1 tank for ground units. Everything else was in the water. But all the German subs, or the 2 German subs, they went up there, sank the battleship, but then died in subsequent battling. This one remains alive. And it's tempting to go hit this British fleet. I could hit it with 1 sub, 3 fighters, and a bomber. But there are 3 destroyers and a cruiser in there. So, cruiser shooting at 7 could cause a problem. Knowing that the German infantry will be defending at a 5 here, I thought, let's do it. So I brought down a couple from France to bulk up Morocco, Algeria, and make Operation Torch a little bit more painful. And, of course, America's got to build a lot more transports. And did not want to bring a transport down here, of course, simply because of the presence of the German Luftwaffe can easily reach Sea-Zone 12 and land in Morocco, Algeria. So, that's where we are after round 1. Not a ton of surprises, but a little bit better off for the Allies, just because of some extra hits that they wouldn't have gotten otherwise. The Axis have not enjoyed such yet, as they have not been attacked on their home soil. All right, round 2 coming up. We'll see if these 5s play into it anymore. All right, here we are entering round 3, and I decided to make the U.S. much more aggressive in the Pacific, and you'll see why here in a moment. Up top, the Japanese built another factory up here in Manchuria, and the Soviets did not come across. I debated it with myself for a while and decided that caution was a better answer right now. Now this turn, obviously, we're going to hammer down on the Soviets. Got lots of air power and got some ground units that can make it as well. Might lose some aircraft, but we're making bank with the Japanese. Partially because we took Australia, we have all the money islands, the Philippines, we took Burma, and we are marching through China, although the Chinese were a little resurgent, took back Ningxia this turn. So unless I can take two of these territories with the Japanese. The Chinese will be placing yet another infantry there, but fairly typical round 3 build for China. The British, we've decided to evacuate India. Had I built a factory there, I would have 3 extra units this turn, and that would not have been enough because I certainly would not have focused on taking Australia. I would have sent everything at India, and I would have taken it this turn coming up and would have just gotten a free factory. So I think that was a good idea. Although who knows, maybe the 5s would have kicked in. Yeah, we'll never know now. But we retreated some of our units to Persia and Africa. We have that factory. We built a couple of tanks because we're thinking offensively here, not defensively in Africa, because it is tough for the Italians to bring in things to Africa. Here's the Anzac contingent off in Brazil. Not exactly sure what role they're going to play anytime soon, but they are there. Up here, we have the Soviets with a monster stack and are quite a threat in Europe. So likely punch through Bulgaria, Romania this turn, but it really depends because we have the inevitable Italian can opener through Belarusia. Now 5 tanks and 2 bombers can make it to Moscow along with 2 fighters. So that's 9 units, and here we have 8 units. Obviously the bomber is not much of a factor, but we do have 7 5s waiting for the Germans as well as the anti-aircraft gun. So if I don't take a poke, I never will be able to. So I'm going to have to take a try, see how it turns out. We'll have, let's see here, 7 6s and 2 8s versus 7 5s and 1 1, and then the anti-aircraft gun. So numbers wise, yeah, it's slightly in favor of the Axis, but it will weaken them considerably if they don't take it. So, and the Russians can take it back, and there's really no follow-up that's going to be able to get to Moscow next turn. So as fun as that would be for the Germans, they'd get an extra $26, but they might lose far more than that taking it. So all things to consider. The 8th Air Force came in and were able to do 5 damage on the factory. Oh, that's something I was going to note, is I've got the factory stickers here I bought from HBG, and they work well with this game because you know, it saves a little bit of time setting up, and they're all the same. There's no minor factories or medium. They're all just the major factories. So that works really well. Saves a couple minutes of setup, so that's always fun. Saving time. The British built a battleship and another transport and have decided to move into Norway, and the Americans have joined them after the fact. We're going to try to dissuade the Germans from heading eastwards, but I think it's inevitable that they will have to continue to do so. And over here the Americans have their build and went north. They decided not to try Morocco, Algeria with 4 5s sitting there, as they would only be shooting with 2 4s and 4 2s. Would not be a very good punch. There was something else I was going to mention, but as my mama said, it must have been a lie. What in the world was I going to talk about? Oh well, that is everything, I guess. So, the Germans, will they take a poke here at Mother Russia's capital? Well, time will tell, and if they succeed, yeah, it's some money. They're going to lose it right away, so the Russians will lose a build turn, but not much else German stuff around here. The Russians were able to take quite a bit of German real estate. They actually only hold 2 Soviet territories right now in total, and then the Italians have 1. All right, well, that is everything for the wrap-up of round 2. Round 3 coming up. Will Moscow still be in Soviet hands, or will it be liberated by the forces of the German war machine? All right, well, every so often you have opportunities in this game that you just got to take. It might not make sense mathematically or tactically or strategically, but you just want to get something done. Well, if we look here, the battle for Berlin is about to begin with an amphibious assault from the Baltics, where the German fleet is no more. But there's two reasons for the British to do this. One, they'll get a ton of money because Moscow fell, the Germans took all their money, and then the Soviets took it back. Did a spoiling attack, wiped out some tanks here. And so Germany right now can bring in 4 units, 3 tanks and 1 fighter to fight the 6 units in Moscow. 7 units in Moscow. So not likely, I mean, there's all the infantry are defending at 5 because of that neato house rule I got going here. The other thing, though, is these 3 bombers can make it. And if the 3 bombers can make it, then Moscow is in a lot of trouble. So we're going to do this fight, and we'll see what happens. We're going to start with the anti-aircraft gun, going after the British bombers. Nothing there. So the 2 British infantry come in. Oh, yuck. And the 2 tanks. 1 hit. And then the venerable Lancasters come in, and only 1 hit. So only 2 hits. And we got 3 German bombers. Nope. And 3 German tanks. Only 1 hit. Okay, so the Germans have to take off their hits first. We've got to take the bombers, because if we don't have strength, it's just not going to make a difference. Only 1 hit on the British. So not good for them. So far it's looking pretty British. But we'll see. Still got to roll the dice. Yeah, that's the infantry. Not doing much there. 2 tanks. So that's 1 hit. We have to roll 6s for them. And the bombers have to roll 8s. And we got 2 more. That's 3 hits. So the Germans are essentially down to 1 tank defending Berlin. But they do got some defense here. So 1 at 2. Miss. And 3 at 6. No hits. Well, you deserve to lose your capital then, I think. We're going to start with the bombers. You're going to bomb them out. All right. That got it. And the German tank. Then they get a hit. So we'll take out the infantry. Well, look at that, folks. So that is bad news for the Germans. A couple of British tanks are there. The bombers, of course, can make it home. And that is a ton of money. I'm just going to show you what the British get here for cash. Because the Germans, of course, are getting all their bonuses. And the Soviets even had a bonus there. So we've got, what is that? 70, 80, it's like 86 bucks. So 86 bucks just went to the British. And the British have already reloaded with some stuff that they want to attack with. I didn't build any transports for the British because I didn't think I'd actually win that, just to be honest. And not certainly going away like that. So with Berlin falling, the Italians are going to be able to take it back. And if they don't, then the Americans are going to come and just land these 5 units there. So possibly 6, throw a bomber in there, why not? So then the Germans won't have to fight for it, but they'll have no cash and really not much of a chance to take Moscow again. So not really sure. That might be curtains if it weren't for the great Japanese Empire. Little spoiler for the round 3 wrap up. Yeah, they're trucking along quite nicely, and we'll see though. The Americans get another build here before the Japanese get to go again. So we'll see what we see. All right, well that's it for the battle for Berlin. It's flying under the Union Jack right now, folks. Italy will probably take it back, but we'll see. Well, as you've seen, it was a very eventful round 3, and we'll show you the culmination of it. The Americans, we're bulking up in the Pacific right now. Looks like Germany and Italy just won't be the problem they typically are, and Britain is awash with cash right now, so being awash with cash is a good thing. So the American fleet has sortied out to the Hawaiian Islands, and they're going to get ready to take on the Empire of Japan. And they now have pretty much parity in naval presence. The Japanese do have an extra carrier, but it's way over here and shouldn't be involved anytime soon. And the bombers kind of even things out. However, as we know, the Japanese do have a very healthy economy, causing all sorts of grief. And there's really nothing that the Chinese can do to slow them down anymore. And as you already saw, Calcutta fell, and quite quietly too. Oh, I know the thing I was going to tell you before. I was going to come over here and show you that that's how many extra hits have been gotten by infantry defending their home territory. So just an extra 5 units, and they've all been Axis units have died because of the die change. So again, one game, a valid study does not make, but it's a start. The Italians were able to take back Germany. They lost the plane to the A&A gun, however, but they were able to kill both British tanks that had survived for the loss of another tank. So Italy to the rescue. And the Americans moved into Finland and are now causing a little bit of grief here for the Germans. So the Germans right now could take a poke with 3 tanks and 1 fighter. So that's 4 at 6. But that's versus 6 at 5 and 1 at 4, to say nothing of their annoying A&A gun, which may pluck another Messerschmitt from the skies. Down in Africa here, the Italians brought over a couple infantry to bulk up and built more. So Italy does have some units on the board and are just trying to maintain some sort of a presence and possibly be able to pull the trigger should the need arise to help their German allies. That's all. The Americans came over and landed in Norway, so they're ready to strike into the heart of Germany on the next round. So the Germans have to be very careful here. They're going to have to circle the wagons quite a bit. I think France will be left fairly undefended, and there could be an opportunity for the Brits or the Americans to take Paris. Lots of British units are ready to come on over. Nothing built in the east by the Americans this round. And this happy little guy down here, not exactly sure where to go, because there is still 1 German fighter lurking about, to say nothing of the Italian fleet. Now, I debated about taking Transjordan with the Italians, but they likely just would have been extinguished and to gain nothing. So I thought we'll stock up in Libya and hopefully hang on to that territory a little bit longer. That's where we are after 3 rounds. Wow, a lot has happened. Moscow fell twice. Berlin fell twice. I tell you, crazy times here. Calcutta fell. Sydney fell last round. It's been madness, folks. Just madness. All right. Well, let's see what happens. Round 4. Will Germany be able to get back into a war footing, or are they just going to get pummeled and end up suing for peace? All right, turn 4 saw some pretty exciting stuff. We'll get you caught up right away. As you can see, the Americans decided to spend their entire, they had $50, they spent 48 on some bombers here. Yeah, we are really trying to put the hurt on Japan, but Japan is also building up her fleet. So, we'll see if this strategy will pay off, in that the Americans have come and taken the Philippines back, and the Japanese, while powerful and could definitely match this Navy with what they have here. That's why I didn't send the fleet over to the Philippines. I'm just sacrificing a lone transport. It's making Japan spend more money in the water. And when you can get the Axis spending money on stuff that they really don't want to spend money on, that's always a win. But the remainder of China fell. I'm not sure if we caught that before. The Japanese came into Persia and sank the 2 British boats here, of course. But the British built a couple of subs, which seems to have scared off the Italian fleet. Now, the Italians came over here to liberate France, which the British had taken. So the French took it back, or the Italians took it back, and then the Americans took it for the loss of 4 infantry. So it was not easy, and 3 of them died thanks to the little bonus pips. So yeah, the Italians, their infantry rolled 3 5s, and so that hurt. There'd be 3 more Americans there if I hadn't instituted that rule, and that, although not a huge problem, a little bit more of a concern than just 2. A couple of British bombers did some damage to the German industrial complex, And with all the money they had, they were able to build quite a bit of stuff. If you're not familiar with how I play along with all my friends, we have a no limit rule on your capital territory. You can build everything you want. We find that Russia falls a little too quickly, having only the ability to build 6 units. So we did change that up. And it seems to not really make that big a difference overall, but in this case it might. I was able to build 18 units here and actually saved a bunch of money as well, because we had over 100 to spend. It was around 120 bucks to spend. So that's where we sit now. Again, the Americans built nothing out here, and if the Italians had an Italian unit here, could, you know, come on out and grab Brazil, but they don't have any units adjacent to the Italian fleet here. And if the Germans wanted to hop on and then go 1-2 on the Italian turn, could do that, but I don't think the Italians are going to have a fleet left. I think the British are going to take care of the Italian fleet this turn. They got subs, and they've got bombers and all the rest. And I'm sure France will be back in the hands of the Germans momentarily, but not for long. The British are going to be landing more units. And if they don't land the units in France, they're going to head back to Berlin. So the Germans must remain cognizant of that. But the Japanese are putting some pressure on from the east, and will be knocking at Moscow's door. They could actually hit Moscow this turn, but of course the Russians will put blockers in. And there might be a battle up here. We'll see. We've got our 8 5s in Yakut, and that's more than what the Japanese can bring punch-wise, I think. But yeah, it'll be interesting. I guess they can bring 6 6s and then a bunch of 4s and 2s. Well, 2 4s and a bunch of 2s. So probably going to hit them this turn, because if we can get through that, that'll cause some real grief. Plus, we've got to get moving, because the Yankees certainly aren't going to give us much time. The British did an about-face with their Atlantic fleet, and they're coming home. Now, there's too much stuff here for them to attack, but they can certainly come in and possibly head for the East Indies or Borneo. So the Japanese will have to spin back, I believe, and cause some grief. Now, they do have transports in this little fleet, because they had brought a couple tanks over from over here in French Indochina, and so they may actually bring some tanks over and start mucking about in Africa. I haven't decided yet if we want to just continue putting pressure on Moscow, or if we want to try the death of 1,000 cuts for the British, because they are hurting now, their economy. I mean, they're at 31, which isn't terrible, of course, but they are not, they're going to be losing some other stuff here. Now, if they get France, that's always good. It's a good payday, because they get a bonus, $5 bonus for that, as did the Americans. So the Americans made 20 bucks in bonuses last turn, which gave them 68 bucks. So they're pretty healthy as well. All right, well, on with turn 5, and see what these two giants decide to do. It's kind of tough playing chess against yourself, but we're going to give it a whirl. All right, round 5, and things seem to have calmed down a little bit compared to round 4, but still a lot of destruction going on. We'll point it out in just a second. So the Americans and the Japanese have this uneasy standoff going. We now have 7 American bombers, and the Japanese built 3 bombers as well over here. And again, the Japanese surface fleet does outmatch the Americans if they can all get together, but unfortunately the Japanese decided to take a little bit of an excursion. Oh, you got bumped. And they're starting to gobble up some of the British African territories. And, well, we'll see how that goes for them. They lost Persia. The British came in. There was only one Japanese guy there, though, and he took out a man and an artillery, so good for him. And we built a Japanese factory in India to put some direct pressure on the Soviet Union. Soviets had to put up some blockers here, and they pulled back and built a line here and added a couple of tanks to buffer them a little bit. But really now there's nothing in Moscow at all. And yeah, but they can build very quickly. and no natural enemies on the western side of their holdings. As you can see, they've actually gone into German territory, so the Soviets made bank this last turn as they were able to get some real money going here against the Germans, who are getting pummeled. That's just 2 bombing runs. The lowest number I've had is a 5 with the bombing runs. I've had like 4 or 5 6s and a couple of 5s. Over here, the British landed with authority, and the 4 German infantry got 1 solitary hit. And it wasn't even with a 5, it was a 1 of all things. But yeah, that was pretty sad. The Americans have bolstered the defenses with a squadron of fighters to help out. But the British were able to build these units here that can all come on the transport next turn as well. So I think we're in the, as they say, the dying notes of the work, as well as the Japanese are doing. They really aren't going to be able to put that much fear into the Soviets. The Soviets already have more stuff in the Caucasus than the Japanese have in Calcutta, and they can build more units there, plus they can build in Russia proper. So not likely to be a problem. I failed to mention the British here. I was almost a victim of my own let's go get 'em attitude with the Allies. As we know, the British were here, and I came over here. I thought this will be a spot that I can hide out and then head up. But the Japanese have a bomber that they can send 1, 2, 3, 4, right? So actually it's 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6, and land here. So could have wiped out everybody there. So I went and parked over here with the Americans, and are hopefully grab the Carolines shortly, or something better. Not really sure what, but we'll see what opportunity presents itself after the Japanese have gone. Obviously, they're not going to spend a lot of resources looking after the Carolines. But of note is that the Americans poured all their money into the Atlantic this turn. A little bit of a shock to the Axis, I'm here to tell you. And they'll be headed eastward, as they say, instead of westward. All right, round 6 is coming up, and that will be very telling for the Germans. Right now, we'll show you what we've got here. Germans are the second lowest on the chart at $15, and although that'll likely go up, I'm sure they'll get Poland back, but they will not be getting France. They just don't have the horses for that. And that means that the British will be able to hit Berlin from the north and from the west at the same time. And that could be curtains for the Germans, but we'll see. We'll see what happens. But the Soviets are up around 32, British in the mid-30s, Americans up over 40. Japanese are doing well, though, as they tend to do. But time will tell if they've got enough to keep the Allies busy. All right, well, the game is pretty much over, folks. The British were able to come in from both the west and the north, and were able to take Germany, not without damage, mind you, but yeah, they were able to take it. With a bomber got shot down, but they still had 1 remaining, and 4 tanks. And there's nothing that can take it back this next turn. And the Italians could go take Paris, and wouldn't that be fun? But it will not stop the inevitability of the next British landing, which is just, this is the build. The Japanese tried an heroic attack on Cairo, and they just rolled horribly. So I eventually retreated the remaining fighters, and the British held on magnificently. Over here, the Russians have done their bit for King and Country, or for Comrade Stalin and Country, and are actually heading in to help out Mao. Well, Chiang Kai-shek, I guess. Let's be real. But in this part of the country, it almost was Mao. And then up here, we've got tanks and men and a bomber ready to go and slice into those 7 Japanese tanks, who lost their accompanying meat shields and artillery in the attack on Evenki. But what I'm going to show you here is The Japanese came and took Manila back from the Americans without loss, and a little bit of national pride there for them. But now we're going to show you the final battle of the game, as the Americans are going to come in to the Philippines, and in my estimation, this is going to be an absolute drubbing. Boy, can't talk. All right, which, sometimes people are happy about. But anyway, we're just going to line these up here, and we're going to build up the board, the imaginary battle board, as it were. And I tell you, I think I'm kind of hooked on this whole D12 system for the anniversary edition. I really like it. And we haven't done the cruisers yet, but this is how it stood. So the Allies received 7 bonus hits, and the Axis received 6 bonus hits. Most of those were from the Italians in France or the Germans in Berlin. So very even, about as even as you can get without being dead even. All right, so we're 2 away, so we're going to send in the cannon fodder there. And, of course, we're going to match battleship for battleship. And we're going to send in our destroyer and our cruiser at a 7, matching up. And we don't get a sneak attack because he's got a destroyer. But we'll see, maybe we might get something. And another fighter. So he's got one more fighter, but then I've got these 7 bombers. I don't know why I say I, because I'm playing myself here, but I think we all like to win, right? So it looks like inevitably the Allies are going to win this one. All right, so there's no sneak attack with the subs, so we're just going to go for it. We've got these ones here, and I think the carriers actually attack at a 1. So we'll start off with a couple of carriers at 1. Oh, that's how it's going to be. All right, so I'm going to use these nice frosted dice. I love these things. Got them from Historical Board Game, along with all these nice... These are the dice I've been using the whole game, or these translucent and frosted dice. They're amazing. I love these things. Well worth the money. I think they're like $1.40 a piece or something. Well worth the money. Just throw down $20-30 and pick up a few, and they're really nice. They just spice everything up. Anyway, enough gushing about the dice, which usually I don't really like, but these ones are okay. This is 4s we're looking for, and we got 2 more hits. So we're up to a 3. All right, and now we got 3 at 6. Oh, no hits there. 1 at 7. And that is a hit. So we're up to 4 now. And then we've got at the 8s, battleships are 9s because of the cruisers getting bumped up. All right. And then we've got 7 at 7. I think this is where or 7 at 8, pardon me. I think this is where the drubbing begins, but we'll see. 1, 2, 3. Guess it wasn't as bad as all that. Only 3 hits on 8 dice at 8s. And then we have 2 battleships at 9. Okay, so 2 more hits. So we got 9 hits total on the Japanese. So that'd be 1, 2, and 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. All right, so only 3 hits remain for the Japanese. Let's see what kind of damage they can do heading out here. So we've got all these here. The carriers are at 4s, and as are the destroyers. That's right. So we've got 3 at 4, and we got 1 hit. 1 hit. All right. 1 hit for the Japanese there. Then we got 4 at 6. 1, 2, 3. That's good accounting there. 1 at 7. It's another hit. And 2 at 8. Or 9, actually. And 1 more hit. So 2 more hits there. So that's 6. And of course, we'll take 1, 2. And since we want to save our planes, we will... let's kill some of these. So 1, 2, 3, 4, and then 2 fighters, 5, 6. Is that what we want to do? That's not what we want to do. we're actually going to get rid of a couple of bombers here. I'll tell you why in a second. Because when you play by yourself, you get these crazy ideas sometimes. All right, so 2 bombers are now in the ocean, along with the 2 destroyers and 2 damage there. So that's the 6 hits and the 9 hits. Okay, so we're going to take these off. And all of this is gone. So we only need 3 more hits here. So we're going to see if the bombers can't get that done. So we had 7 bombers. We have 7 or 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. We got 6. Oh, you know what? Did we have 8 bombers before? Who knows? Here we go. Oh, I think I didn't take the 1 chip off that I needed to take off. All right, there we go. That makes more sense. So we got 5 bombers at 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah, that did it. All right, so the Japanese have 3 shots left. 1 at 7 for the cruiser. It's a hit. And 1 more there. So 2 more hits. We'll take off the bombers. Actually, we'll take 1 bomber and we'll take 1 sub. All right. I guess I should have fired the sub first because I might have had a sneak. Let's see if we fired the sub first. Well, it would have happened. But anyway, that's neither here nor there. Here we go. All right, so the reason that I would take out the bombers instead of taking, say, the carriers or the fighters is because the Japanese built 3 more bombers down there, and I thought, if I were actually playing another round, I think it would behoove me to hold on to as much naval power as possible, thinking that I wouldn't have much left at the end. So we hang on to the fighters to help defend. And the bombers came from Hawaii, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and we can land anywhere. So just for kicks, we'll land in Wake. All right. There we go. And that is it, folks. That we're going to call that, obviously. That's the game. Japan is about to be sent reeling backwards, and they still have healthy pockets, but that they're going to start getting chewed up here. They're going to lose all this. Yeah, it's just not going to go well for them. And with Germany out of the war and Italy ostensibly toothless, that is the game. So I hope you enjoyed it. Not sure if this made a lot of difference, but there were some key moments where some guys died that may not have died, and maybe they would have won the battle otherwise. So it's all in the timing. But thanks so much for watching, folks. As we always say here at the Hilltop Pillowbox, hug your loved ones, thank your friends for playing, and hey, may those dice be with you.